Greetings. I'm Dr. Cogen Bohanec, Assistant Professor in Sanskrit and Jain Studies at Arihanta Institute, but also the co-editor of Engaged Jainism, Critical and Constructive Studies of Jain Social Engagement, alongside with Dr. Christopher Jane Miller. In this video, I want to tell you how the book is organized and why that structure matters, how we've divided the volume into 5 different parts that each explore how Jain thought intersects with contemporary social challenges. But first, the introduction, which is critically important to the work, was written by Dr. Christopher Jane Miller, and it provides an essential methodological overview of the burgeoning subdiscipline of engaged Jain studies. This is a seminal articulation of this very important burgeoning field. Then part 1 opens with a section on critical issues in engaged studies with Dr. Steve Vose offering a bold critique of how applied ethics functions in the Jain endowed professorships and how this presents challenges to both scholars and institutions alike. The next chapter is by Tine Vickemans, who follows a close analysis of Bhakti mantra healing, and she examines the tensions that this might have, the epistemic frictions with scholarship, and how this popular practice can be a site of engaged Jain scholarship. Then moving on to part 2, which explores the social engagement in the Jain diaspora. Johannes Belt reflects on curating Jainism in a Swiss museum exhibit, while Christopher Jane Miller analyzes a Jain mural that was painted on the Berlin Wall, showcasing visual Jain philosophy within a public space, a highly visible and politically relevant public space, that is. Then Yifan Zhang offers an ethnographic account of Jain spatial identity in the city of Bangkok, which is a very fascinating read. Moving on to part 3, it's entitled Engaging with Business and Economy, where Benjamin Jank opens the section demonstrating how Jain ethics can inform interdisciplinary business education. Atul Shah, who's immensely experienced in this field, shows how Jain professional culture offers models for ethical finance and inclusive leadership in the modern business world. Part 4 then turns to engaging to protect animals and the environment. I begin this section with a chapter on Jain virtue ethics and its resonance with animal rights. Andrew Bridges then offers what we might call an anekantic framework for ecological pluralism, while Jonathan Dickstein presents Jain Sanctuary in Colorado as a case of innovation within the tradition. Joey Tuminello looks at Jain responses to faux meat and food ethics, and then I close the section by exploring how Jain eco-theology might complement the insights of eco-psychology. Now, our final section, Interfaith Engagement, opens with Alba Rodriguez Juan, who presents the cultivation of Jain virtues as a spiritual and interdisciplinary interfaith practice. Karina May Loa examines the Yoga Pradipa, which is a medieval Jain text, and she cites this as a rich example of Jain philosophical adaptation between traditions. She looks at uses of classical yoga concepts like dhyana and the Eightfold Path, and shows how these are reshaped through Jain's lens. Shivana Bothra then looks deeply at the Anavrat movement as a blueprint for Jain-based social action. Christopher Key Chappell looks at Haribhadra's Yoga Bindu to show that Jain thought can approach religious pluralism and how it does so. And then finally, the book and the section concludes with Dr. Jeffrey Long's conclusion about a compelling anekanta view as a philosophical foundation for dialogue across traditions. Together, these chapters offer a comprehensive and interdisciplinary articulation of the field of engaged Jain studies. They show that Jain philosophy, ethics, and practice are not only intellectually rich, but they're also vitally relevant to our current global challenges, whether they be social, environmental, or interreligious. We hope this volume inspires further scholarship, but also activism and just personal reflection on the part of the readers, and that this can help catalyze the growing recognition of Jain's place in conversations about global justice, sustainability, and compassion.